Hey everybody, it is Tara, otherwise known as Candy Mama,
And Jonathan.
otherwise known as
I haven't gone by sheriff in a long time. I used to be sheriff.
On the Trail. We thru hiked in 2019, and today we're gonna talk about both of our top 3 favorite states on the Appalachian Trail. We don't know what our top 3 are, so it's gonna be a surprise for us and y'all. Looking forward to hearing what your answers are. I got this idea from my friends Tingers and Magpie from Winifred, the Winnebago. I will put their information below, but they are currently traveling the country in their 1987 Winnebago van. They did a video in a similar way on their top 10 favorite hikes around the country, which is really neat. So if you want more content like this, go check them out, and they're good friends of ours from the John Muir Trail. But today we're going to talk all about the Appalachian Trail, so let's get right into our top 3 favorite states on the Appalachian Trail.
All right, so we're going to start with our third place state. And to start out, I will say third place for me, I think, is Virginia. I would say a lot of people get tired of Virginia. I think it's over 500 miles of the AT is just in Virginia, which is almost a quarter of the whole trail.
Yeah.
So when you're done with Virginia, a lot of people are ready to be done. The reason I think it's pretty high up there is because all the different things that are in the state. You go through a bunch of parks. There's a lot of like overlooked scenic spots in Virginia. And so
if you hear that tapping, it's our blind dog Jerry.
All right, so yeah, that's my third.
Interesting. Virginia.
Virginia.
Right.
It just has a lot, which makes sense because you're in Virginia for a long time.
All right, cool. Well, my number 3 is Maine. Oh, no, it's not. My number 3 is Vermont. Sorry, I misspoke. So the reason my third favorite state on the Appalachian Trail is Vermont is because I just vividly remember the state smelling so good. There's a couple things I remember from 2019 that was like 3-4 years ago. You know, something about thru hiking is like you just remember specific things. I just remember Vermont smelling so good. I remember the fire towers. There's a lot of fire towers, expansive views. I remember they always talk about Vermud, like people would always talk about Vermud, how much mud there was, but I really don't remember like the mud being terrible. There was like a section of trail and I was like, oh, this is getting old. It wasn't hard though, it wasn't anything difficult. A vivid memory in Vermont, something I really cherish. You were actually so tired that day you fell asleep early, but it was at the Bromley Ski Resort, and we climbed to the top of Bromley Ski Resort and stayed in the heated cabin. And a lot of people that were hiking around, Jonathan fell asleep early, but we went to the like net. There's like a net there and you could like sit on it, and we just under the chairlift, and the sunset was beautiful. And this was after we stayed at the Green Mountain Hostel, I think its name was, and the towns were pretty. It was just a really nice state. I just have good memories from Vermont.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's my number 3.
Vermont was cool.
Yeah. I can do my number 2.
Sure, yeah, let's go into it.
Yeah, so number 2 for me was Maine.
Okay.
I don't know how I got that mixed up, but number 2 was Maine for me, and I just remember loving Maine because of multiple reasons. I remember going into Maine, I was exhausted and so tired. I was falling so much in the beginning of Maine. It was difficult. It was kind of similar to New Hampshire, which makes sense. New Hampshire and Maine border each other. Even when it was difficult, it was still gorgeous. I remember being on the Bigelows and looking over the mountains, and it was expansive views, and then there's like lakes you could see. And it was just really beautiful. I really enjoyed the hostel stays we had there. So we stayed at Human Nature Hostel, and then this wasn't a hostel stay, but this was like a little detour for us. It was the Harrison Pierce Pond hunting cabin that we stopped by and got some breakfast. The guy there and the other guy helping him, they were really nice and made us this breakfast. And we had a good group around us too. It was me, Jonathan, Flipper, and Rascal. And we just had a great time. So all of that, but then as you go into the state a little more towards Katahdin, you get the 100-mile wilderness, and you get like new fresh faces towards the end of your journey, because a lot of people like to do the 100-mile wilderness through hike. And so we got to see a lot of new fresh faces towards the end of our journey. And then there was lakes we were just hiking by, and it was gorgeous. And then of course, Katahdin is in Maine, and that's just an epic finish to an epic journey. So number 2 for me is Maine.
For me, number 2, second place goes to New Hampshire. And definitely when I was in New Hampshire, I didn't really know what I was getting into with each state. Like, I'd never looked ahead. It was just when I got somewhere, that was like the first time I saw it. A lot of people out there like know what's coming because of Instagram or social media or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't really look into all of that before we started. And then when I was out there, I just chose, I'm just going to wait and see what's ahead in person. So I had no idea what was coming in New Hampshire. And a lot of you probably know this, but the whites are in New Hampshire. And they're incredible. Yeah, just like no other mountains that you'll see. It just gets better and better as you go. Most of our time on trail, we had pretty good weather.
Yeah.
We got lucky.
2019 was a good year.
Yeah, didn't get dumped on a lot for rain. Didn't even get snowed on that much early on. But yeah, so when we were in New Hampshire, what was that, August? Early August?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, perfect time. It was great. But yeah, second place for me goes to New Hampshire.
Interesting. All right, drum roll for number 1 favorite state as a 2019 Appalachian Trail thru hiker is, for me, Virginia.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I loved Virginia. And I'll tell you why I love Virginia. I thought Virginia, and I still think Virginia, is iconic Appalachian Trail. Just when I think of Appalachian Trail, I think of Georgia, but I think Virginia is just, there is a lot to experience in Virginia, like Jonathan had mentioned. There's 500 miles, so there's so much there. And you get Grayson Highlands, you get the Shenandoahs, you get the Blue Ridge Parkway for sections, you get really beautiful mountains, and you get sections of sweeping grassy fields that are just so gorgeous. I remember these fields of like grass, just so beautiful.
You see like the wind blowing through it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll put a video in there, but it was that, I just remember those moments of being so like at peace with the hike. There was great towns with great services. There's all along the Appalachian Trail, there is great services at these towns, but I felt like Virginia, just like I said, is iconic. They're just so accommodating, like Damascus, Marion. You remember
That's where all the
Marion?
crackheads are.
But I thought it was a really good town.
Yeah.
They had great, I mean, they had that bus that brought you into town. There's Parisburg. There's a lot of great hostels along the way. There was Devil's Backbone Brewery. There's Waynesboro, right near the Shenandoahs at Rockfish Gap. As we were going into Virginia, there was this group walking in to Virginia with us. And I felt like the community was so strong as we're going to Virginia. So I think that brings back a lot of good memories as well. So that might be a little biased of me, but that was the days of Megatram, and that was after James Jordan had killed Sovereign. So I felt like we all kind of came together to comfort each other, and it was a really good time out there, even in the midst of a tragedy on trail. And then also spring was in full bloom by the time we got to Virginia too. So everything was so green. There was flowers, it smelled so great. We didn't have to wear our puffy, we sent a lot of our winter stuff home, so by that time we didn't have as heavy packs. So I felt like Virginia was really like the pinnacle, iconic AT. So that's why Virginia is my number 1 state on the AT.
Yeah, those are good points.
I heard you, agreeing. Do you want to move Virginia up a couple?
No, I'll keep it there.
Okay, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is Maine.
That makes sense. I knew that was good.
Yeah, I had a feeling you'd know.
Yeah.
So Virginia's number 3, then New Hampshire, then Maine. So like I said, for New Hampshire, like I got there and it's like, wow, like this is the best. How could it get better? And then the exact same thought when I got to Maine. Crossed the border into Maine. The terrain there was pretty rugged, fun, but like you're climbing, like hand over hand climbing rocks and stuff. Like It's pretty rugged in that section. Once you get into Maine, it's just the most wilderness out of any state on the AT, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of peaks, a lot of overlooks, and every time you get out and you look out, it's just wilderness. You know, you just see lakes and you just see green trees, and that's it. You don't see towns, you don't see roads. And we were there late August, and so just an amazing time of year to be there. Blue skies, all the, like what Tara said. So you walk by so many lakes, multiple lakes a day. Downside to the lakes, the only thing I could say about the lakes, leeches, which I did not expect.
Yeah,
and
there was a lot of leeches. I forgot about that.
Yeah, you could see them from, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm not getting in.
Yeah,
but,
you couldn't really go in.
Yeah, that was a surprise. But anyways, beautiful to look at. In New Hampshire and Maine, all the colors were just so vivid. I remember thinking that.
The thing about Maine, though, is I don't think we get to appreciate it as much because a lot of people like us are rushing through it because we have a date. A lot of people are making plans for after the trail, and so you don't really get to appreciate Maine as much as you would other states, just kind of letting the trip progress.
Yeah, I didn't feel rushed, though. I don't think back and feel like, oh man, we rushed through that. I wish we slowed down. I don't feel that way. I know we had an end date in line, but still, thinking back, I don't feel too rushed about it.
That's good.
But I was out there, I'm like, I would come back and re-hike this state for sure.
Yeah, I would too.
Oh man, and that time of year is the best. Because I hear a lot of people who start Sobo, when they start in Maine, if it's the summertime, I hear the flies are awful.
Yeah.
So August, we were there in August, and we didn't have any problems. So yeah, section hikers head to Maine in August.
I remember in Vermont, I was rewatching some of the videos in preparation for this video, but the black flies when we were there in Vermont were really bad.
Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Vermont. But that was also the heat of the summer.
Yeah.
So that was rough.
Yeah.
The flies and the gnats.
Well, that's our top 3 favorite states. I felt like we were pretty I mean, Vermont and New Hampshire are basically not the same state, but they're so close, so it's pretty on par.
Yeah, we were pretty
close. Cool. If you like these kinds of videos with Jonathan, getting the Dower Duo back together, then let me know in the comments and I'll wrangle him into another video here and there. That's all for right now. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.